And back with us live from Houston, the Marriott Marquis. And folks, join us in welcoming Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda joining us. Coach, welcome to you. Friendly crowd here, Coach. Congratulations again on the season. We were just talking about the turnaround from the first 6 games to the last 6, 2-4, 6-0, the last 6 games of the year. I said, tell me if I'm right in this, that you really never wavered. You really had faith in this team even through the first half of the year.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here with you guys, and I'm excited to be here with you all. But yeah, you knew the team was good. You knew that we had talent. You knew that we had ourselves a quarterback. We had ourselves an O-line and running backs and receivers, and there'd be things that would happen in practice, and you'd go, "Why we need to get this happening in games?"
Right.
And all that stuff's hard to talk about. I think I've probably made the mistake of talking about that stuff in the past, and so. You knew we were just a play or two away, and I think defensively, right, the improvements that were showing up there, and like, hey, we're getting Keaton Thomas to feel more comfortable. We're getting Matt Jones playing faster. We're getting DJ Coleman kind of step up in his role, and various guys making moves. You knew that we had ourselves a good team, and so it was just a matter of time. I think what we needed was a pat in the back, and some confidence.
Right.
And so I think once we had that, we were taking off.
If you could bottle that, you could sell it for millions of dollars. What you did during the open date and the way you came out, beat Tech the first game out of that really impressively. What can you tell us about what happened during that open week, the 2 weeks to get ready for the Tech game?
Yeah, you always go back to that, and I can understand that. I think everybody does, because that's when the winning started. But I think all of that goes back to me to January, to the mindset, to working on football, for it to be important, for it to be, hey man, we're not here to lose, we're here to win. We got our butts kicked on the Rodeo Bowl last night, and so
we heard this.
I had staff meeting, I had a team meeting. And I'm like, dude, we're not here to lose, right? You should be pissed off, man. I don't want, LSU rodeoing some little box thing and then looking at us as they're walking off. Like, who wants that? I don't want that. Do we come here for that? So I think that there's that's a whole thing, and that has to be maturated, and that has to be kind of grown, and all of it. And so that started in January, and so to have that all the way through. It took, there's some learning that had to do. There's some fitting in with new guys that had to happen, but I think that was the big change was January. Yeah,
Coach, as a former quarterback, I want to start there. Tell me from your assessment the difference in Sawyer between, say, what you saw in spring, summer camp, fall camp, and then eventually, you finally saw the production on the field. Kind of what did you see in that progression that, of course, the performances told you, hey, this is the guy, but kind of talk me through that because he's now, of course, solidified himself in that position.
Yeah, there's always positive things with Sawyer, and he's always been someone you want to root for. Mm-hmm. And, I think we all enjoy rooting for him now, but, I think the biggest difference for him, I think very similar to our team, was confidence. Right. I think he needs someone to believe in him. Mm-hmm. I think that it was so tough. I mean, anything that was positive found a way to be negative, and then there was plenty of negative to go around. And so I just think when someone really cares and they're not all about them, they take that really personally, and you wear that, and I think that's what he did. And, to get him to where, hey, man, that ain't the thing. You've got something real special. Right. You got to believe in yourself and all of it. And I think there's a whole group of people. His family being the most important. Right. And then I think with Spav and open up the offense, there's confidence in there. I think Hal Presley has been a big factor in Sawyer gaining confidence. And then I think once you had a little bit of confidence and just a little bit of success, then all of a sudden the guy that you knew was always there is constantly there. But I think when you care so much about stuff and you hear it all and you don't think that's you don't think I can do it. You don't think maybe they're right. Maybe they're all of this. And so much of it was that, and so I think for him to go through all that and come out the other side, I think he's going to be way helpful to some of our younger players that are going to, are getting introduced to it. I think it's just the life that we live right now.
When did you believe the light came on for him? Like, I mean, it seemed like, from my personal opinion, I think when I saw him the first week, I think he came into mop-up duty in your first game, and he's really decisive. And maybe the opponent was overmatched. But then I was like a couple weeks in, I think just want to see him. So from your perspective, when did the light, I guess, come on?
Yeah, you could start to see that in, at the fall camp. You could start to see confidence. The fall camp ended at a certain time. If there's a couple more weeks to it, it got harder. It was getting. It wasn't really necessarily getting easier. It was getting harder.
Right.
And you could just feel his confidence grow. I think when Sawyer is at his best, he knows where to go with the ball. It's out quick. He's decisive with it. He's got touch on the ball, or touch on his throws. He puts it where it needs to be, and all of it. When he's not at his best, his feet are moving. He's patting the ball. He panics. He kind of shot puts the ball. And so you could see a lot of that, kind of the good and bad in spring, and then you saw less and less of the bad stuff in fall camp. And then when the opportunity came, in the season, you really saw none of it. And so that's just a way cool thing. I think, I think all of us as coaches, we probably want to be able to take some type of accountability for all that. But really, that's Sawyer.
Right.
That's him.
Right.
That's his confidence. That's him going through all of it, and just way proud of him.
Yeah, from being on a defensive guy, and you're coming in, I'm naturally going to lean on the linebackers. Those guys I've been watching, Matt Jones and Keaton Thomas. You're taking over the defensive coordinator role with the head coaching job. That's a lot to manage during a game. How much did you have to lean on Matt and Keaton during those games? Those guys, the leaders on the field, those guys making the plays on the field. How much did those guys help you, or did you got to lean on? Because it looked, from my perspective, those guys did a great job, especially toward the tail end of the season, controlling and commanding the defense.
Yeah, I go back to the rodeo bowl that we lost last night. There's examples in there. They have all these events that they do, and it was just really so frustrating watching it. Because when you're on the outside of it, looking in, thanks, man. You're looking in at it. It's kind of like, why didn't he just step this way? Or the calf. They weren't really calves, by the way. I think they were bulls. But the calves over here. What you need to go over here and move it this way. And hey, you go for the small calf. Don't go for the big calf. And there's all these things that are just built in. And I think. So like you could have the kind of the idea of a thing, but there's so many just intangibles. There's so many, if you have the A, then you got the 1, 2, 3, and you have all these things that are below it that are just really the lifeline of the thing. They really make up the thing. And I think linebacker, as you know, is very much that way. And so like you have to talk when you're on the sidelines and you're talking about something. It's like there's many depths, there's levels. It's the same thing as a coach talking to a quarterback, right? And so you have to talk that way. And I think that started back in January too, where they had to draw all 22 all the 11 offense and 11 defense, and they had to draw it all up. And hey, if you move this chess piece, this is what happens. Hey, if you're in this look, this is what happens. If you're in a 30 technique, then it's this. If you're in a 10 technique, the angles are bad, now it's this. And so there's a whole thing that goes with it. And I think, we had some guys that struggled to keep up and fell off, and their playing time, reflected that. Right. Those two were able to keep up. And I think towards the end, that Kansas game, we just saw so much just this way, and unbalanced sets and all these other things. And, anticipating LSU is very much the opposite of that. They're very much here we are lined up. We're better than you. Deal with it. I'd have to anticipate with some of the big plays that Kansas got, we're going to see some of this, which is not in their makeup. But to be able to talk through all of that and get to the understanding of how this is supposed to be, I think is a fair amount. I think the Big 12 is probably more of that than other leagues,
right? Of
having to deal with all the mess and just all of the creativity and all of the offensive, scheming that goes on. And so I think for those guys, the growth is way cool, and they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. 2 guys in the middle with 100-plus tackles in the season, running around sideline to sideline. So those guys were fun to watch.
No, thank you.
Continuing with Coach Dave Aranda, a segment brought to you by Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the official team doctors for Baylor Athletics. How about the year by Bryson Washington? You had seen that, haven't you, in practice? And once he finally got healthy, everybody else saw it. 1,000-yard season, freshman All-American running back.
Yeah, I think the growth with him has been really cool off the field. I think early on, we'd be in the 9-on-7 period, and I'd be back there with the linebackers. This was last year, and I'd always look at it from the defensive side, and they'd be going, hey, this boy's coming to run you over. And so that was way different from some of the other guys that were getting the ball at that time. And so very early on, you knew that this guy was different, and he ran hard, and he was a violent dude. He looked for contact. He looked to run guys over and all of that. But, there's just the off-the-field things just kept kind of dragging him down. We're trying to push him up. He's dragging down. And so I think the opportunity to kind of slow all that down and to talk it through, and then with some new coaches coming in and kind of new chances on all of that to kind of grow up and build it up, been way cool, because I think his growth off the field and on the field been way cool. They're kind of at the same thing, and so everything we see off the field is started on the field or off the field with him, And so I think that's a lot of credit goes to Coach Hall, Coach Spav, and just their attention to that. But then I think his ability to accept that and kind of grow up with all of it been a big factor.
Coach, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about up front, offensive line. Early on, I know we played a few tougher defenses, I felt like, Utah was good up front. BYU is big. We saw that last night. But the slight move to put Sidney at tackle, which I don't remember him playing as much until maybe the Iowa State game at tackle. Talk about, kind of the change up front, kind of what you saw in that change. And that seemed to be, of course, the thing that spawned the running game and, of course, adding Bryson. Talk about that little slight change in the offensive line.
Yeah, I think the big change there was just the style of play. I think with Spav coming in and it's a downhill run game. I think for those that remember Coach Browse was here and all of that, and just it's that style. And so I remember I coached with Coach Browse at Houston, and I remember there was one time I went to talk to him about it, and he gave me this look because it was the O linemen at that point, when it was a run, their heels were completely off the ground, and they're white knuckles, and they're like this coming at you, and when it's a pass, they were like this. And I'm kind of going, Coach, there's this, and he just got, Dave, it's not going to matter. That's what he said. And he was right. He was right. It didn't matter. When they're coming like this and they're just rolling off downhill runs with the splits being so wide, right? You had to commit, and they had the RPO off of it, right? And so the glance route, and then you had the chop, the fade route off of it. You had to commit to it, and if you don't, then there's downhill. The ball just bounces outside. There's no one in the seam. There's all this space, and so we're of the same cloth that way, And so that allowed our guys to just get physical. We have half line periods at the end of the season, and just the double teams and the movement. I mean, we really had to build an anchor, and it's impressive to watch. And along with that is like once the confidence came, and once they saw that, hey man, that first play of the Tech game I think was 7 yards. That's the first 7-yard run we had all year long. And then it was like, okay, we can do this, and then it just takes off after that. I just think the belief, that's the thing I take away from this year, is the power of belief and how strong it is. And it's to how hard it is to get it. When there's a phone in your pocket and stuff that says all the other things, right? And so I think like the scheme really helped. There's guys like Ryan Lingell that, took to the scheme. I mean, we've got clips of Ryan Lingell finishing people. The Kansas game, we had multiple snaps where we had linemen putting their D linemen in the ground, and we showed like a 10-play reel of that. and we're celebrating every time a guy were to put a guy on the ground, and then he pushes off the guy to get up and all of it, and so there just becomes a pride and a confidence that comes with that.
Right.
But you don't even know what that is if you haven't never done it,
Yeah.
right? And a coach is talking that way, and you go, "That's not for me. That's not what I could do." And so then once they get a taste of it, obviously they want more. Yeah.
And a phase that's often overlooked, special teams. Talk about what kind of weapon you had with Palmer being able to pin guys and what that does for your defense and that kind of confidence that gets if they're in the pin to the 20, pin to the 10,
Yeah.
and kind of they have to drive 90 yards now, and kind of what kind of momentum and he brought to the team.
Yeah, I'm proud of of our teams. I thought last year, for all the failures, we had really good special. We were number one in our league, and we went ahead and did it again this year, with teams. And so that's 2 years in a row of just playing really strong. I'm way proud of that, of all the work that goes into that. We had practice today, and we had a ACC crew that was doing the refs that were doing our game. And we had a lot of special teams time today, and so we had a bunch of kicks and everything. And Palmer is just, and we had one of the guys come to me. And he goes, "Man, that boy's pretty good." That ref, he goes, "This boy is pretty good." And I think he's got the chance to be one of the best.
Yeah,
he's got a chance to be one of the best, and so it is for sure a weapon. And when you can flip the field like that, and you always want to move the ball when you're backed up and get it out, but if you can't, you want to be smart about it because you know that we can flip it with him, and so that is a factor.
Continuing with Coach Dave Aranda, final word from the Baylor head coach, presented by Jeff Haas Mazda. Jeff Haas Mazda, the #1 Mazda dealer in Texas. I think we've talked to you for a few minutes here. We haven't mentioned LSU much. Your former school, you were there. What do you see from LSU, and what are your feelings about going against a school where you worked and helped them win a national championship?
Yeah, I have a lot of good memories there, friends there. We had an event, last night that they were there, and the video coordinator is still there. Doug O'Quinn is just unbelievable person, unbelievable guy, and just he's helped me still with being in Baylor. There's film, there's a drill that we did in 2017, and it was this week, and he finds it and sends it to me. And
wow.
It's just this awesome guy, and he's always been like that. There's countless guys that are all throughout that building that are just quality people that have been there for a long time, and so to see them is way cool. I want LSU to win, not this game,
right.
But I want them to win, and I want them to be successful. And so, when I look at the team, it's the defensively they're way pressure oriented.
Right.
They blitz quite a bit. When a pressure hits home, it gets behind the sticks and everything, the ball's either going this way or they get so aggressive the ball gets that way fast. And so we want some of that, and so I'm hopeful that we can have some big plays off of their aggression. But if they get you behind the chains, the blood's in the water and the whole thing, they're very much that way. They are one of the more attacking defenses that we've seen. And so all of our guys are excited for that challenge, and I think offensively it's all pushed by the quarterback. I think he's Nussmeier.
Right.
He's a coach's kid. I remember when we were recruiting him, just way smart, can identify the whole thing, and then he holds a bunch of checks, so he runs all of it. So
wow.
like if there's a blitz thing, he'll get out of it. If it's a soft coverage, he'll change the route. Right? If it's a protection thing, he'll change the protection. He, more than any quarterback, so much more than any quarterback we played, he runs the whole show.
Wow.
And so our ability to not tip stuff off and not tell him what we're doing is essential. And he does a bunch of hard counts and stuff, tries to get you to jump to show it and then check to it. So that's going to be a big part of the game. We'll see. There's some guys out, but there's still guys there, and they're talented and everything else. And so it's a game that we got to win, and it's going to be a challenge, but we're in it to win.
So, Coach, with that in mind, watching these guys, they're they have some receivers out, but they are going to put pressure on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
That's been part of the thing, playing the ball in there. I thought we did better against Kansas, did a good job. Kind of what have you been working on in that aspect of the game of making sure on the back end you're where you need to be and make sure you compete against these guys who are very athletic?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think, we've talked about kind of guys pushing through adversity and trying to find confidence and getting confidence and kind of how they flip the script and stuff with whether it's Sawyer or the team or the O-line. We've just not been able to do it with our DBs consistently. Now, I think these last couple of games there's been some success because we've gotten takeaways, and so there's less possessions, less opportunities to play the ball in the air, and so I think that's been something, we're +5 in turnover margin right now. We're actually one of the top teams in the country. This, from where we started to where we're at, is a way cool thing. They're -2, and so this is going to be one of our biggest advantages in the game, is that we don't turn it over and then we get turnovers. And I think with us, if you disguise stuff and then you get pressure, he will hold on the ball and he will try to make something happen when there's nothing there.
Right.
And that's good. That's been good for opposing teams. We hope it's good for us.
Coach, we need to let you go. We appreciate it. Thanks very much. Looking forward to the game on Tuesday.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Coach Dave Aranda, head coach of the Baylor Bears, Baylor and LSU in the Texas Bowl on Tuesday.